Hey up everyone, welcome back to the Rugby League History channel. Today on the channel I'll be doing my tips and predictions for round 17 of the 2025 NRL season. Last week I got 4 out of 7 correct. Someone on the channel last week asked me how many tips I've got right in total for the entire year. It would take me a while to go back and count all that, but on average I get between 4 and 5 correct every week. So if you're watching, that's how many that I get usually every week, 4 or 5 correct. But let's start with this week's tips. And the first match is on Thursday night. It's between Penrith and Canterbury Bankstown. This one's being played at the Western Sydney Stadium. Canterbury in first place and Penrith 8th on the table at the moment. Penrith have been resurgent in recent weeks and they've gone from dead last all the way into the top 8 now. So they're picking up a bit of momentum and they'll be hoping that they can continue that. Canterbury Bankstown coming to this fixture having come off a bye last week, and I imagine all their state of origin players and everyone else will be back on deck for them. I think this is going to be a tall order for Penrith, even though in the last 7 encounters they've won all of them against Canterbury Bankstown. The last time Canterbury defeated Penrith were in round 20, 2019. But I'm going to go for a Canterbury winning this game. I'm going to go for Canterbury to win by 1 to 12 points on the Thursday. And the first match on the Friday is between Manly Warringah and West Tigers. This one's being played at Brookvale Oval. Manly 10th on the table and West Tigers 14th on the table. Manly have won 7 of the last 10 encounters against West Tigers. And I must say, looking back through some of the history in recent times, a lot of the games have been high scoring, especially when they've been played at Brookvale Oval. Lots of games where one team scored 30 or 40 or 50 points, so lots of points scored in these fixtures. West Tigers coming into this match having lost their last 5 games in a row in the league. Now if it were another club that were higher on the ladder, say like a Cronulla or maybe a Sydney Roosters or whatever, the media would be going crazy over it, going, oh, what's going on here? But because it's West Tigers and because they've come last 3 years in a row and they're rebuilding and all that caper, I think nobody's really talking about it. As for Manly as well, they're in a bit of a crisis at the moment, and there's been a lot of talk about Seibold's future as Manly Warringah head coach. And I personally think no matter what happens this year, even if they do qualify for finals, I think this will be Seibold's last year in charge. But to cut a long story short, who do I think is going to win the match? I think Manly Warringah will win this game. I will go for them to win by 1 to 12 points, and I think this will be a high-scoring affair on Friday. And the main match on the Friday is between Newcastle and Canberra. This one's being played at Marathon Stadium. Newcastle 13th on the table and Canberra 2nd on the table. Newcastle are Canberra's bogey side, you could say. In the last 10 meetings, Newcastle's won 7, and looking at Canberra's record in Newcastle, it's hit and miss. They've won a couple of games there, they've lost a couple of games. Newcastle going into this match having pulled off a massive upset over a red-hot Redcliffe side, and Canberra have won 5 matches in a row in the league. I still think Newcastle are wooden spoon candidates. I still think that they're a team that, you know, when I look at them on paper and I look at how they've been going this year, they're a wooden spoon candidate for me. I think this is going to be a tall order for them against the men from the capital, so I'm going to go for Canberra to win this game, and I'm going to go for Canberra to win by 13 plus. And the first match on Super Saturday is between Brisbane and New Zealand. This one's being played at Suncorp, or for the older listeners, Lang Park. Brisbane 5th on the table at the moment, New Zealand 4th on the table. In the last 10 meetings, it's dead even between the two clubs. There's also a draw thrown in there as well. However, Brisbane's record over New Zealand at Suncorp is very good. New Zealand's last win against Brisbane at Suncorp were in round 18 of the 2018 NRL season, and before that I kept scrolling down and I couldn't find the next win, so it's quite a long time ago. Brisbane are, you know, a bit resurgent now, like 2 wins in a row, and a bit of the pressure's been taken off them. And New Zealand, I think they're a real good chance of finishing in the top 4 this year. For who I think is going to win this match, I probably would tip New Zealand if it were in New Zealand, but looking at their record at Lang Park or Suncorp, it's awful. Maybe it's just something about them going there and things just don't work out for them. So I'm going to go for Brisbane to win this match. It's going to be a close one. I'm going to go for them to win by 1-12. And the second match on Super Saturday is between St George and Parramatta. This one's being played at Wynn Stadium in Wollongong. St George 11th on the table, Parramatta 15th. In the last 10 meetings, Parramatta's won 7 of those against St George, and they've won the last 4 encounters, including earlier this year. The last time that Parramatta won in Wollongong, however, were in round 2 of the 2017 NRL season. And the last time that they played there were that infamous round 16 match in 2018 where Parramatta come last that year. We were up by, I think, 12 points with less than 5 minutes to go, and we lost the game. Mainly due to Will Smith. If you want to have a look at that game, it's still on YouTube, but it's one of the most heartbreaking losses I can remember being a Parramatta supporter. There's a lot of stuff going into this match. A lot of the games against St George are very high scoring, or they're very close. Obviously, it's going to be Clint Gotherson's second match against his former club. Zach Lomax against his former side in St George, and also it's his first match back in Wollongong as well. Parramatta got a 4-pointer in the, well, some people would call it a spoon bowl match against the Gold Coast. Much needed win. And actually, they looked a lot better. Without Dylan Brown there, they looked way better. And maybe even Mitchell Moses as well. And as for St George, they're a bit of a funny side. They've had some good results, they've had some bad results this year. This is going to be a really tight one to call, I think. But for who do I think is going to win this match? I think Parramatta can win this game by 1-12 points. If they fix up some of the handling mistakes, some of the discipline, then 100% they can. And this is a huge match for them, because if they can get the win here, then they've got the bye next week. So this is another 4-pointer. So this is a huge game. But I think Parramatta can win on Saturday. And the third match on Super Saturday is between Redcliffe and South Sydney. This one's being played at Suncorp Stadium as well. I'm not too sure if that's correct, but on the app that I've got, that's what it says. Redcliffe in 9th place on the table at the moment, and South Sydney in 16th place on the table. These sides have met 3 times. South Sydney have won twice, and Redcliffe have won once, and these two sides met in round 1 this year at Western Sydney Stadium. South Sydney have lost their last 4 matches in a row in the league, and they currently sat second last on the table, but yet nobody's really talking about it. The media's going, oh, there's a crisis at Manly, there's a crisis at Newcastle. But hang on a moment, what about South Sydney? They were expected to be a top 8 side this year. They were expected to be one of the big improvers, and they're second last. So I think they're in a bit of a crisis as well. Redcliffe last week, I think they should be investigated for match fixing them. I mean, how can you put 100 points in 2 games and then lose to Newcastle? Please explain. And South Sydney, I didn't see the full game or the highlights mainly, but apparently they got ripped off against Melbourne in a dodgy decision, which always happens when you play against Melbourne. They always seem to get the rub of the green, don't they? For who I think is going to win this match though, I'm going to go for Redcliffe to win this game. I think based off what they've been doing, the form and everything like that, have to go for Redcliffe to win this match. I'll go for them to win by 112 points. First match on Sunday is between Melbourne and Cronulla Sutherland. This one's being played at Amy Park in Melbourne. Melbourne sat 3rd on the table at the moment. Cronulla Sutherland in 6th place on the table. In the last 10 meetings, Melbourne's won 7 of those, and Cronulla's record isn't very good at Amy Park. With Cronulla, these two sides met earlier in the year, and they had a very impressive win over Melbourne at Shark Park, and I thought that here maybe this is the turning point for them, but in the last month or so, Cronulla's shown me that they're pretenders once again. I think they're not contenders, they're pretenders. If they do play finals again this year, they'll be cannon fodder for some of the other teams above them, I think. Sorry for any Cronulla fans watching, but that's just how I think it'll pan out for them. Apparently this game's a rivalry game as well. If I get a chance, I'll do a video on this one sometime during the week. But these two sides have a bit of a history against each other. But for who I think is going to win this one, I'm going to go for Melbourne to win this game. I'm going to go for them to win by 13 plus on Sunday. And the final game to close us out on Sunday is between the Gold Coast and North Queensland. This one's being played at Seabus Super Stadium on the Gold Coast. North Queensland in 12th place on the table, and Gold Coast are 17th and last. and they're not just equal last, they're stone motherless last as well. These two sides met earlier in the year and North Queensland put 50 points on the Gold Coast, effectively ending their season. In the last 10 meetings, these two sides have won 5 matches each against each other. But in the last month or so, the wheels have really fallen off North Queensland badly. They've had 3 losses in a row, and they've had some heavy losses as well, and no doubt Wobbling Jaw Sports, especially last week, he would have had a brain aneurysm probably watching that game. And for the Gold Coast, their match against Parramatta, that was the 10th time this year where they've conceded 24 points or more in a game. They just can't defend. If you can't defend, you cannot win a game of rugby league. Not unless you can outscore the opposition every week, but that doesn't happen very often. This match is a huge match towards the bottom end of the table, with some big implications, especially off the field as well. There's content creators from both sides that don't like each other. So whoever wins this game is going to have the bragging rights. But especially for the Gold Coast, this is a huge match for them because it's a winnable game against a team that's low in confidence. And after this, they've got the bye, so this is a 4-pointer for them if they get a win. But then after that, looking at their run home, they don't have too many winnable games coming up. They've got to play New Zealand twice, Penrith, Brisbane, Cronulla, and Redcliffe. Albeit they also do play West Tigers twice, but there's some tough games coming up, and there's been talk about Des Hasler's future at the club, and I think it's the same as Seabold. I don't see him coaching the Gold Coast next year. Even if the Gold Coast do avoid the wooden spoon this year, I see Hasler leaving. But I think this issue at the Gold Coast is not a Hasler problem. The defence at that club's been a shambles well before Hasler came to the club. Who do I think is going to win this match though? Both teams are under immense pressure. Both head coaches are under a lot of pressure as well. But I just think on paper, if North Queensland can wake up to themselves, they've got a good chance of winning this game and getting their campaign back on track, because the Gold Coast, as I mentioned earlier, can't defend. If North Queensland can throw the ball around a bit, they can score points. So I'm going to go for North Queensland to win this match 1-12 in a high scoring affair. So that concludes me round 17 tipping video. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know in the comment section below, and let me know who you're tipping in the score margins. Thanks to everyone that tuned in last week. My tipping video was one of the most watched on YouTube. Thanks very much for all the engagement and support, and all the new subscribers. This has been Rugby League History, and I'll catch us all later in the next video. Alright, tatty bye for now.